Hello everyone, this is a new format. I'm going to try and see if people like it. So I have decided to cover some interesting developments that we see happening around the handheld community, games, and tech in general. Without wasting time, let's begin with the biggest news that devastated the entire emulation community. The recent takedown of the Suyu Nintendo Switch emulator from GitLab is the latest chapter in Nintendo's ongoing battle against emulation and piracy. Just days after its initial beta release, the project faced a swift DMCA takedown request from the gaming giant, leading to the removal of its project page and the locking of contributor accounts. The Suyu emulator was born from the ashes of the now-defunct Yuzu emulator, which was forced to shut down after a legal battle with Nintendo. The developers behind Suyu aim to continue the work of Yuzu while navigating the legal gray areas and avoiding the pitfalls that led to Yuzu's demise. Despite their efforts to distance themselves from piracy allegations and claims of monetization, Suyu found itself in Nintendo's crosshairs. The takedown notice cited violations of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, specifically the circumvention of technological protection measures, TPMs, used by Nintendo to protect its games and software. While this setback may seem like a significant blow to the Suyu project, it is essential to consider the resilience and determination of the emulation community. Throughout history, emulators have faced legal challenges and takedown attempts only to resurface under different names or through decentralized efforts. The developers behind Suyu have already expressed their intention to continue their work, albeit with a more cautious approach. They may opt to operate under a different name, remove any references to Yuzu or Tropic Haze, the LLC behind Yuzu, and focus on developing the emulator without publicly promoting it. Additionally, the emulation community has a long-standing tradition of sharing knowledge and resources through unofficial channels, making it challenging for companies like Nintendo to completely eradicate these efforts. While Nintendo may succeed in taking down specific projects or websites, the underlying technology and expertise remain widely distributed. Ultimately, the future of Suyu and similar emulation projects will depend on their ability to navigate the legal landscape while maintaining a strong commitment to game preservation and fair use. By prioritizing non-profit motives, avoiding explicit promotion of piracy, and focusing on technical advancements, these projects may find a way to coexist with the gaming industry's intellectual property rights. The takedown of Suyu is undoubtedly a setback, but it is unlikely to be the end of the road for Nintendo Switch emulation. As long as there is a passionate community dedicated to preserving gaming history and enabling legal use cases, emulation efforts will continue to evolve and adapt, even in the face of legal challenges. But then, when people are trying to look closely at the injunction document that Suyu got for DMCA, it looks like it has typos and weird capitalization. Hence, this could all be a bluff in the end. By the time of the write-up, none of the moderators or admins have confirmed anything. The GitHub is still unavailable, and they have self-hosted themselves to another location. I have attached the link to it in my description. Right now, it does feel like that the DMCA was bogus. We will see what happens next soon, and we will update you. Now, jumping on the news, where we talk about a time when Steve Jobs promoted emulation via Mac. In 1999, Steve Jobs took an unexpected stance by enthusiastically promoting Virtual Game Station, a $49 emulator that allowed playing PlayStation games on Macs. At Macworld Expo, Jobs and Phil Schiller demoed the software, with Jobs declaring on CNBC, "It lets your Mac play Sony PlayStation games. You can't even get this on Windows." This emulator was developed by Kinectix, and Sony quickly filed an injunction to stop its sales. However, the court ruled in Kinectix's favor, establishing an important legal precedent for emulation. As the video narrator explains, this ruling is one that, to this day, game emulation advocates point to as helping establish the legality of emulators. Unable to win legally, Sony resorted to a different tactic. Sony lost, so what did they do to ultimately stop Kinectix and their Virtual Game Station? Well, Sony just bought it. That ought to do it. Jobs' enthusiastic promotion of the emulator, including the quote, "You can't even get this on Windows," highlights his willingness to embrace emulation as a selling point for Macs at the time. The legal battle and Sony's eventual acquisition of Kinectix also underscored the complex dynamics between emulation and intellectual property rights. Well, the times have changed, isn't it? Now, in the other crazy tech news, the researchers have confirmed that VR headset can get hacked, and every input from the user can be manipulated easily using an Inception layer. Researchers from the University of Chicago have demonstrated a novel attack called Inception Attacks that can manipulate a user's virtual reality (VR) experience without their knowledge. One of the researchers states that we introduced the Inception Attack, where an attacker controls and manipulates a user's interaction with their VR environment and applications by trapping them inside a malicious VR. The attack works by presenting the VR user with an Inception VR layer that sits between them and the actual virtual environment. This layer can capture and modify data in real time, allowing the attacker to eavesdrop and manipulate communications. The researchers warn, once trapped in an Inception VR layer, all of the user's interactions with remote servers, network applications, and other VR users can be recorded or modified without their knowledge. The potential implications are severe because this is, coupled with malicious clones of popular apps like VR Chat, the Inception attack can eavesdrop and modify communications in both directions. And should virtual reality be considered a sensible place to conduct banking transactions, even steal funds without alerting the user? Alarmingly, the researchers claim their attacks successfully deceived 26 out of 27 participants, including highly experienced users who interact with VR devices on a daily, weekly basis. This quote highlights the effectiveness of the attack against even knowledgeable VR users. In the Retro Console News section has something very astonishing revelation in relation to the original NES. After nearly 4 decades, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, has finally received its first peripheral for the mysterious expansion port. The NES sported a new case design, detachable game controllers, and a connector on the bottom labeled expansion port. Despite rumors and speculation, Nintendo never released it or licensed a third party to use it. The port's pinout was eventually reverse-engineered by the retro hardware community, but the connector's non-standard nature slowed down add-on hardware development. Now, a company called Baker Apple has developed the NS Extended, described as the first and only expansion port peripheral for the original NES. The device allows users to load games from an SD card, apply cheat codes, and even remap the controller buttons. Quoting Baker Apple's founder, "This is the first time in 37 years that the expansion port has been used for its intended purpose of adding new functionality to the NES." The NES Extended's successful creation is a testament to the dedication of the retro gaming community. The retro hardware community has known the pinout for the expansion port for years, thanks to reverse engineering efforts and repair schematics. This breakthrough not only unlocks new possibilities for NES, but also serves as a reminder of the enduring appeal and ingenuity surrounding classic gaming hardware. All the people who have the original NES, comment below and tell if you have seen this expansion port before. Now, talking about Dragon's Dogma 2, a game that was heavily anticipated and everybody was crazy about, is facing insane backlash right now. 3 hours into the release of Dragon's Dogma 2, and the game is already facing backlash from players due to the inclusion of surprise microtransactions. It's disappointing to see a highly anticipated title like Dragon's Dogma 2 marred by such a controversial decision. Microtransactions, especially those that impact core gameplay elements, have become a contentious issue in the gaming community, and for good reason. Players who shelled out $70 or more for the game expected a complete experience without hidden costs. However, it seems that certain essential features, such as character customization and fast travel, are locked behind additional paywalls. This not only feels like a betrayal of trust, but also a blatant attempt to nickel and dime consumers. The outrage from players is understandable. They have every right to feel misled and frustrated, especially considering that Capcom did not disclose these microtransactions prior to launch. Transparency is crucial in building trust with consumers, and this lack of communication has undoubtedly tarnished the game's reputation. While microtransactions have become a common practice in the gaming industry, they should be implemented in a way that enhances the experience without compromising its core values. Locking essential features behind paywalls is a step too far, as it creates an uneven playing field and undermines the value proposition of the game itself. Consumers deserve better, and it's our duty to amplify their voices and advocate for fair and ethical business practices within the industry. In the case of Dragon's Dogma 2, Capcom should seriously reconsider their approach to microtransactions. Addressing the concerns of the community and offering a more consumer-friendly solution would go a long way in restoring trust and ensuring that players can fully enjoy the game they paid for. And in the latest Nintendo Switch 2 leaks, we have a leaker known as Nash Weedle has claimed to have received confirmation from a developer about an update to the development kit for a potential Nintendo Switch successor. This information has sparked excitement and speculation among gaming enthusiasts and industry insiders. According to the leak, a Spanish game studio has already obtained the updated dev kit, suggesting that Nintendo is in the final stages leading up to the official announcement of their next console. This development is particularly noteworthy given Nintendo's reputation for maintaining strict secrecy around their upcoming hardware. This suggests the Switch the 2nd of May have backwards compatibility with existing Switch controllers and accessories. There are rumors that the Switch 2 will use an NVIDIA Tegra T239 system on chip, which is based on NVIDIA's Ampere GPU architecture and ARM CPU cores. His could potentially enable modern rendering techniques like DLSS 2.0 for upscaling and improved ray tracing performance compared to the original Switch. Multiple sources indicate the Switch 2 will continue to use game cartridges and have a portable handheld mode like the original Switch. This hybrid design, allowing both handheld and TV-connected play modes, was a key selling point of the first Switch. While not confirmed, there are expectations that the Switch 2 will have substantially more RAM, potentially 8 GB LPDDR5, and built-in storage 64 GB or more compared to the original Switch to handle modern game install sizes. This brings us to the end of today's video. If you liked what you see here, do drop a sub for us. Have a good and be safe. I will see you guys tomorrow.